Today we have the pleasure to run a workshop about workshop and value curation. We'll let you introduce yourself, maybe starting with ladies first.
With pleasure. So Marlène Carrias Iked, I'm the Strategic Marketing, Digital and Innovation Vice President for Valeo Aftermarket, Valeo Service.
Thank you, Marlène.
Yeah, Markus Wittig, my name. I'm running the global independent aftermarket and OES for passenger car business for the ZF Group.
I'm Neil Fryer. I'm the Vice President and General Manager of PHINIA Aftermarket.
Roberto Caravati, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Global Business Unit Aftermarket at Brembo.
It's a real pleasure to have you all in this room to discuss a very important topic, which are how can we evaluate the value creation for a workshop? What can be the main KPIs considered by them on a daily basis? Who wants to start?
Okay.
Ladies first.
First for the first, and after we can
That's
change.
fine,
Let's say that the question has probably not a unique answer. And there are different elements that are absolutely key to manage the efficiency and the value creation for a workshop. The first one is certainly the capacity to generate traffic. And when we talk about traffic, that's obviously the number of entry in a workshop, but also the average basket. And we have probably a common role to try to increase this average basket at an affordable price, but both with more and more technical parts, but also more and more technical labor. So that means skills guys behind that. That's one of the first points. The second one is around productivity, because when you are the leader of the workshops, you need to ensure the efficiency of your team, and also the customer satisfaction could be driver or fleet satisfaction. And at the end of the day, all this contribute to the P&L.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Marlène.
If I may add, I agree with you. You know, the share of wallet is a key topic from a supplier or manufacturer point of view. But of course, if you look at a workshop, it depends where you are in the world. Yeah, you probably have different KPIs, and you want to fill your base in. If you look at Europe, you know, Germany or France or Italy, and if you go to some of the emerging markets, it's first key know-how, you know, training. Yeah, so that I really have skilled people, and also for us as manufacturers, a key topic to really train them up, and that they can install the parts, and that we all of us have less claim rates, for example. Yeah.
I think if I can add to that, within the mature markets, there's a key aspect which is management of customer relationships. We talk a lot when we think about the mega trends about increasing fleet ownership of vehicles.
Definitely.
And independent aftermarket workshops are used maybe to a much more personal relationship with the customer that they build over years. And the value for that customer is to be able to trust the workshop and to ask for advice from the workshop. Whereas the fleet, in my view, will be a much more rational buyer. What can you guarantee me in terms of the service level if I go to an independent garage compared to another chain of workshops which has standards? So we have to also think about how do we help the workshop to be able to access those fleet customers.
I agree with what has been said. To me, the key aspect is the product culture. I mean, we really need to make sure that there is enough product culture at the workshop, and that's a must. Ultimately, it's still a very long value chain. Our end customer, I'm always saying that is the garage owner, or maybe we can discuss later on what actually is it. But I mean, it's irrespective to the fact that there is a polarization of the market between private label or entry-level brand and top premium, that it's very, very important that we convey the message on what they are buying and what the product fits for what needs. So it starts from there. And then, of course, behind the product culture, there are different aspects, which is not just the technical content, is the training, is the awareness, avoiding that we do mistakes in installing parts. So those type of basic things that sometimes are a little bit neglected.
But Roberto, is what you said. It's they want to have a hassle-free repair so that their customers are not coming back. And you touched on, of course, quality parts plays a crucial role. Otherwise, you risk that a driver comes back with a complaint and you might lose the customer. Absolutely agree on that. That's a key topic. It's for us as manufacturer vital.
I can't agree more, and that's why the education of again what I call our end customer, because I wish that someone goes into a workshop and is asking for a Brembo brand. I mean, I will give him this is, even if we have a pretty nice brand, it's almost impossible. So the more we educate, because I think we are in an ecosystem where the more we train, and I think all of us, we are very open to share this knowledge, because the more educated and trained is the workshop chain, the better it is for all of us.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And if I can say, I think I certainly see in our training centres a big appetite to be trained by the technicians. They really want to get that knowledge and to be able to work on cars. So I think it's important for us to be able to give them that training on the vehicles that they see today, but also training on the vehicles that they will see tomorrow, so that the independent aftermarket has a future from that point of view.
Yeah, it's absolutely key if we want to ensure the sustainability in terms of the future of the IAM.
Yes.
Because if, as a key supplier that are delivering this high technical product, we are not transferring this know-how to the mechanics, there is an issue compared to the system of the OES. So we have a key role to play, absolutely. That's the reason why we have invested in Valeo Tech Academy, but we are not the only ones.
And I think maybe we have to broaden as well. And I think I mentioned this, but it's about the ability to repair, in my view. So access to vehicle data is important. And we have to make sure that we create that level playing field. But on its own, it's not enough. If the workshop or the technician doesn't know how to work on the vehicle, we have to train them. We have to make sure that the parts are available. It all comes together in one combined offer.
Yeah, and what is absolutely key is the fact that today you cannot only be an expert of one product, one part, because this part is in an ecosystem. So when we are delivering the training, it's also very important to be capable to level up their expertise around an architecture, a full architecture. If we really want to help them to be capable to diagnose properly and to operate them properly. Among the key figures that shocked me, there is the fact that a repairer spends more than 60% of his time not to repair, but to diagnose. And not to, because the diagnosis is efficient, but because he's losing time to find the reason why there is an issue. And what we can observe is the fact that in a big majority, in average half of the time, they are not capable to invoice the full amount of the diagnosis time. So we were talking about efficiency, about know-how, but a workshop owner is also going to look at the productivity. So it's very important to have this knowledge around the product, but also around the architecture to make the proper diagnosis and to ensure that at the end of the day, the workshop owner is capable to make the right bill to the driver and to valorize the expertise of these guys.
What you see now is, if you take Europe, the independent garages, they had a lot of time also to learn. The development of the technology was much slower compared to today. If you now go to the developing countries, you see a lot of EVs fully equipped with battery management, with other solutions. Mm-hmm. So they really need to leapfrog, to jump in terms of know-how and experience, because otherwise they can't even touch the car. So the training component is really will play a crucial role in those, let's say, countries, because they don't have a time like what we saw here in Europe.
Yeah, and in the same time, just to share another figure that also is very impressive for me, sometimes it's just a question of information before training. Mm-hmm. If we take the example of a hybrid vehicle, in a survey that has been conducted by JIPA, that we all know, 70% of mechanics refuse to change brakes on an hybrid car because they don't know that they can. So here again, it's very important to inform and then train, but first inform and train the guys, because it's a business that the IAM is losing in that case.
I think it's also important to offer this ongoing support. It's one thing to train, but in an independent workshop, you don't know what vehicle will come in tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not like an OES garage where you see Audi or Fiat or Renault every day, you see different cars every day. And taking advantage of the kind of technology which we have now to provide online learning platforms is really important for that, because then at least the technician can go back and refresh their memory about certain things that they may have been trained on that they only use once every 3 months or something like that. So we help to keep them constantly up to date.
I think it's our duty to make the exercise as simple as possible, and that's why, I mean, the risk is that everybody develops his own academy, and we see it, and I think this is a little bit of a risk. That's why we are at the opposite. We are very open. I mean, we have a concept which is Brembo Expert, but I mean, we are really open to share it with everyone, because I mean, we have a lot of knowledge on brakes, and I totally agree that is much better. I mean, the figures that you just mentioned is just concerning, because I mean, changing a brake on an hybrid car is not rocket science. There is something much more complicated that you can do, and that's why I would say, on one end, if everybody develops his own academy, I mean, everybody has his own knowledge, but I'm really for the open source. I mean, it's there, use it. I mean, it's even if there is some know-how, but it's not the know-how how you repair it. Because if you want, again, this industry to prosper, is ourselves. So this is what it's all about. Sometimes people are just even too afraid. There are something that it can be extremely complicated. Something is much more simpler than pop.
But I would say it depends a bit also on the product. Yeah, if you're talking about e-mobility and relaunch, because you also need to be certified in order to touch the cars, and not only for the repair shops. So some trainings, I agree with you, could be free, and some mechanics also use that. But for e-mobility and as part of our workshop concept, we launched that to educate the e-mobility training, so that they also get a certification, and goes in the direction of what you said earlier, that they are professional and not turning customers away to go to an OS job.
If I may, I think that you're both right. And I'm not used for consensus, so take the opportunity. But the point is just to say that we are developing more and more technological products. So that's normal, that we are capable to support the guys to know how to fit, how to dismantle. For me, it is a duty, okay? And that's normal. And we need to go on doing it for free. And in the same time, when you are more on how to diagnose in front of, again, a complex architecture, because there is, at the end of the day, a certification, a recognition, which also is going to have an impact on probably the labor cost and so on, and also an impact on in some cases, according to the country's subsidies, that's the case in France, the case in the UK in a certain way, you are entering in a new area, the area of a complete training path, where you make a test at the beginning to identify your level of competence, you are following a global path, and at the end of the day, you've got a new level of knowledge. So I'm not making the two things in competition. I think that there is a technical support which has to remain for free, and there is the pure and deep training where it's something that could be monetized because there is a strong value behind.
No disagreement, and I think this is also what you said.
Yeah.
Depending on the product, depending on what the certificate is.
And then I think he's absolutely right. It depends on what region of the world you are talking about, because it's and the leapfrogging that Markus was referring to. We need to adjust based on the need, but we have this role. I mean, we have an important role. I repeat the concept. We are the one that can make this industry continue to prosper, because we have first a vested interest. And then it's because, I mean, knowledge sharing is the base to make things right. Because, I mean, most of our components are safety declarated. You don't want to have people still mount pads opposite. I mean, we all sell pads. So, I mean, this is one of the most common mistakes that you wouldn't even believe it that someone can still do it. But it's...
Yeah. Excellent. I think that we could spend an half day just talking about that. It's really good. It's really good.
But you have more questions.
I have a few more questions, so let's move slowly to the second one, which was still about value creation. What do you think about the part of customer attraction and retention in this creation of value for the workshops? Maybe we change the side of table.
Building on what I said before, I think it's absolutely crucial to build those relationships with customers, but also for the workshop to understand that there are different types of customers, particularly if you see increased fleet ownership. And you need to be able to work with that fleet customer, which has a different expectation than an individual consumer who owns a vehicle.
But repeating, I think that the mechanics of the workshop are key influencers into the decision process. And then, I mean, if we dig in a little bit, who is it? Is the workshop owner? Is the installer itself? Maybe is the assistant, which is placing the order and refurbishing more the brand A or B. I think these are all people that are very important to be trained. Or I was last week in France, you go on a retail and you just understand that your end customer is not anymore the garage owner, but it was a 19-year-old French guy speaking in English and French. And I said, wow, I mean, this guy knows, it's really, but he's the one that is at the counter and he doesn't have even the time to explain. He needs to really having the feeling who's entering there. Can I just try to sell something more upscale and more expensive and maybe make better margin? So this is exactly, we need to, and I agree, fleets is another animal, in inverted comma, that needs to be treated in a different manner.
It's interesting what you say. We look at, from a ZF perspective, at two different things. Of course, we serve the PC and the CV market. So CV workshops have, again, going more into the fleet direction, a different dynamics with Pro Service and Pro Tech, aiming on the professional appearance of workshops, with a certain flexibility, so that against an OES workshop, they look professional. But also we see other markets like in Brazil, where we're also reaching out more really not to the workshop owner, but to the mechanic, because it's the next generation, that they have a keen interest, in changing technology, what is coming up. And of course, like most of us, we can also provide such information with the OE background we are having, what you will see in the cars coming into your workshop. It's also shifting. In the past, it was probably more the owner, the decision maker. But now I think it goes also more really into the next level of the mechanics, so that they also see it's interesting, the work they need to be doing in the workshops.
I think I fully agree. Perhaps one point where we are trying to be fact-based on our capability to deliver the right support to the workshop, because I fully agree with you three. They are the decision maker at the end. So we launched some years ago something which is a standard in a certain number of markets, which is called the NPS, the Net Promoter Score, which allows us to track our real capability, not to satisfy, but to delight, because of the words, to delight the workshops, and also to identify where we need to progress. And thanks to this tool, it allows us, for example, we were talking about training, to reach an interesting score, because the scale of NPS is going to from minus 100 to plus 100, and we are plus 70, so let's say that's great. And you were talking about loyalty, that when you reach such type of level, you can see that, yes, your workshop is going to become loyal. And for example, when we are talking to training, in average, a workshop is coming back 3 times a year to follow some Valeo trainings. So I'm pleased with the score, and the teams made a great job. But more than the score, what is very interesting is also all the verbatims and all what we can learn, listening carefully their voice, because of course we are not visiting all the workshops every day. That's not possible. That's not realistic. But having such tools to be capable to capture what their pains, what they need, it's very essential also.
Okay, I will maybe add a small second point, 2 questions related to this one. You talk a lot about workshops. What is your point of view about the end user? How can your brand, for example, influence the loyalty? Do you think really that the workshop is the only prescriptor of the goods?
It depends where you are in the market. If you go to China, a lot of first-time car buyers used to the loyalty to the OES. Mm-hmm. I would say much more online savvy than in other markets. So they do search for brands, for feedbacks, for workshop feedback. Is it is it a workshop where I would bring my car? If you go to Germany, probably sometimes I say my workshop is like my doctor. I don't change as long as everything is okay. So I think they build up over time. I think in Europe really brand loyalty to the end users. They trust them. So therefore, I think a key decision is still done in the workshop in terms of brand recommendation or what repair job needs to be done. And if you capture that also for cars with the latest technology, you keep your customers. Yeah? If you use cheap parts, you are not able to repair it in a proper manner, you will lose it and you move on. So it depends a bit on where you are, how important the role of the car driver plays. And what Niels said earlier, of course, we will see also the change in car ownership with more towards fleets, and that will change probably a little bit the dynamics, who's taking a decision, what parts, what brands, what products are used.
Yeah, I think the relationship the consumer has is really with the workshop that they go to. So how can the workshop improve their relationship with their customer is the most important thing.
I believe is ultimately selling the right product to the right person. And of course, I mean, the link or the final link is the garage owner or the retail or not the fleet. Ultimately, in every purchase decision, you are looking for the peace of mind. I mean, it has to be seamless. It has to be without troubles. And so what should be the value proposition? I mean, the quality is there. Quality, it totally depends on what they're expecting. I mean, it's quality, it's performance, it's innovation. But ultimately, I think this is the difference between a private label and the brand. I mean, the brand needs to give you this peace of mind. So to say, okay, I'm relying on a brand, which gives me coolness, is strong, it belongs to that. And of course, all our brand has a different pedigree and heritage. That's ultimate where you can have the premium and again, the right product to the right person. But who is executing the sales? Again, I'm pretty much convinced that in most of the cases are those guys in the garage. I mean,
agree on that.
Perhaps on top, even if I fully agree on the fact, again, that the workshop is the decision maker, there is someone else who is more and more influent probably in our value chain, which is the insurer. The insurer. And this, guys, particularly also with a fleet part, which is becoming more and more important. So that means that there are a relationship and balance in our value chain which is changing. We have also probably to be capable to better talk to these big companies which are looking for having the best balance between something which is reliable, qualitative, and with the most appropriate, affordable price. So solutions, this morning we were talking with some other colleagues about Reman, for example. And we have just launched and announced yesterday the opening of headlamps remanufacturing for the first time. I think that this is something that has been highly demanded by insurers and that they are going to push. So this is my impression, the fact that we need also to count with them and if we really want to be capable to ensure a certain loyalty at the end of the day.
Yes, Marlène, but I would say you are even a level beyond the fleet. I mean, fleet, is the concept of the total cost of ownership. If you go to the fleets and even in the insurance, it's never one level above. I think that sometimes, even if you have a very strong business case in terms of total cost of ownership, by the fact that the value chain is very long, this is lost. I mean, I can try to sell it to the distributor, but then he needs to go and sell it to the fleet, and then he needs to sell it to someone else. And then if it was a rational, conscious decision just driven by an economic value, everybody would take it. I think all of us have some this total cost of ownership business case, but this is not easy to be sold. And it's, at least on our experience, I mean, it's, even if you have double-digit figures and say, get this combination of products, we save you X. Yes, okay. Or we run a test, but it's not that easy to close the sale or to close the loop on that aspect. Sure. But I agree that this will come. I mean, it's...
Thank you. Next question, how do you see the future of the right to repair in the context of an aging car park?
Positively. If we want to build it positively. But with a certain level of complexity, more seriously, because we are going to face an unprecedented organization of the market with probably 3 different technologies that are going to coexist. For sure, we all know that the average car park is increasing. So that means that thermal vehicle in North America, in Europe, even in China, will remain. So that means that we need to have guys that know how to repair this ICE vehicle. In parallel, there is more and more, and more than expected, an increase of hybrid cars. So people need to know how to operate these cars. And finally, even if it's not at the expected rhythm, but electric cars are also rising, particularly in China, for example. So that means that the mechanics will need to be capable to handle all these technologies. And this is quite new. So this is very important to be capable to support them and to offer solution for each pool of technologies in the same time.
Let me add a different angle to that, and this is where we as the industry have a duty. I think legislation need to come into play, not only in Europe but in US and China as well, because the change of technology into EVs. We can manage. It's a big challenge for the mechanics, but it's training and it's product. But all kinds of cars will be somewhere have a software, will have cameras on that. And if the access is blocked, you can't do diagnostic. You said the numbers, how much time they spend on diagnostic. They can't recalibrate after the installation of the part. So legislation, like it was with the block exemption in the past, is absolutely vital. Yeah, we as an industry need to lobby at the right places. And of course, also as manufacturer and ZF, also we do that. We have a duty that we at least have access to our products, with the discussion we will have with the vehicle manufacturer. So it's 2 angles, legislation, and also make sure that we keep independent aftermarket in mind of our engineers as well.
I can't agree more with Markus. And that was really right to repair to me is based on legislation, and we all need to lobby. And there are 2 things. The block exemption regulation, to me, it has been the best legislation, and it's only 5-6 years I'm in aftermarket, but without the block exemption regulation, it would have been.
Yeah, totally agree.
And so great. And then the other one, which has to come into place, is the access to vehicle data, because it's with these 2. And if the legislator is capable to replicate something as good as the block exemption regulation for the access to vehicle data, then I think this is the foundation on something on which we can all, and this is great for the competition, because this is ultimately what the legislator, at least at the European level.
At European level, that's logic, yeah.
And for the consumers.
Absolutely.
And I think, the important thing is to think about the aftermarket as a whole. You have one market, you have 2 channels. One is the vehicle manufacturer channel, one is the independent aftermarket. But the reality is, much as they would like to dream as a vehicle manufacturer that they can service and repair every car they've ever sold, there is not enough capacity in their network to do that. So they need a strong and healthy independent aftermarket to service the cars that were sold 20 years ago or 15 years ago. And with an aging car park, I think that becomes even more relevant. And if you are a vehicle manufacturer and somebody has one of your cars which is 20 years old, I'm sure you really want them to have a great ownership experience, so that when they do buy a newer car, they buy the same brand again. And if they have a bad ownership experience, they're less likely to do that. So there's some enlightened self-interest maybe for the vehicle manufacturer to say, actually, I need the independent aftermarket.
Totally agree.
So excellent. We are running a bit out of time. So the good news is that we almost answered the 4th question, which was as to how to maximize the loyalty of the workshops. So, well, thank you for your time. I know that you are all very busy. It was a pleasure running through these questions with you, and hope to see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Carine.
much.
Thank you for the initiative.
Thank you.